Okay, first of all, don't forget tonight's Vishchaydish. So you have to say Yalav V'Yovei in the Shmonesri for the next 2 days. And Friday we're back to Kaddish. I mean, back to God. Back to Tachnu. Okay, now a few general rules about Muktzah. We learned the various reasons of Muktzah. We're not done yet with all the things that are different types of Muktzah. There's more types of Muktzah yet that we didn't learn yet. And then there's a lot of, let's say, reading materials. There's a lot of reading materials that you're allowed to read on Shabbos. There's certain reading materials you're not allowed to read on Shabbos. Business things like that, all those types of things. Certain even intellectual books, some you're allowed to read, some you're not allowed to read. So again, if you're allowed to read it on Shabbos, it's not Muktzah. If you're not allowed to read it on Shabbos, it's Muktzah. You can't move it whatsoever. But now we learned already that Muktzah is forbidden to move the normal way of moving things. Now, there's what's called kila'achar yad, backhanded, or it's called indirect. Now, let me explain. There's two things. Let's say I want to move something. Okay, you're not allowed to use a siddur for this, but let's say this thing is Muktzah, because there's money in there. Okay? Now, obviously, for me to pick it up with my hand and move it is rabbinically forbidden. It's called Muktzah. Okay, I could touch it. Muktzah, we learned you're allowed to touch, providing it doesn't roll. So in Moshe, they say a din, an egg that was laid on Yom Tif, or Shabbos, that egg is completely Muktzah. So an egg, that's Muktzah, you're not allowed to touch, because an egg is oval or round, so when you touch it, it moves. But it is, if I touch it, it's not Muktzah. We learned about pets, animals are Muktzah on Shabbos. You could touch a dog, a cat, but you can't pick it up, you can't move it. Because again, Muktzah is moving something, it's tiltal means moving something, it's not necessarily touching it. So Muktzah could be touched. But what happens if I want to move this with, let's say, the siddur? You normally wouldn't be allowed to do it anyway because it's a siddur, but we're learning. So what happens if I want to move it like this? Now that's not the normal way of moving it. But I'm still using my hand. I'm still using my hand, but I'm moving it in an indirect way. So then the din is as follows. If it's for the benefit of the Muktzah, if it's for the benefit of the Muktzah, I cannot do it. I'll give you examples of that. If it's the benefit of the not Muktzah, let's say I need the place. I don't do it. I'll give you a simple example. You're in the street, you find money. Okay? You can't pick it up on Shabbos. But you want to move it to the side under a bush, let's say, that hopefully after Shabbos will still be there. Make sure nobody watches you when you do it, because it won't be there for sure. Now, I'm just using this as an example. Can I take something that's not Muktzah and move the money like that? So over here, I'm moving it for the sake of the Muktzah. I want the money to be moved because I want the money to be safe, that I can get it later. It's not, for instance, I need the place, and this happens to be on the table, so I'm going to take something which is not Muktzah and move it off to the side. Then I'm moving it backhandedly, right? Not the normal way of doing it, but I'm moving it not for the sake of the Muktzah. I'm moving it because I want the place, or I want it to be somewhere, whatever. I don't want it. So then the din is like this follows. So if, let's say, I'm using my hand with something in indirect movement, so if I'm using it for the sake of the Muktzah, I'm not allowed to. If I'm moving it not for the sake of the Muktzah, then kila'achar yad is permissible. But then tiltum and atzad. Tiltum and atzad means I'm not b'chlal moving it with my hand. Here I'm moving it with my hand indirectly. So then again, if it's for the Muktzah, no. If it's not for the Muktzah, yeah. What happens if I want to move something with my foot? Now that's not Muktzah b'chal. So there's a machlekes about it. The Rebbe holds though that muktzah tiltam and atzad, meaning not with your hands, you're using your elbows, you're using your blowing, by the way, according to most days, is called min atzad, because you're not moving your hand, you're just blowing on it. So you blow on muktzah. So over there, the Alter Rebbe says, the Alter Rebbe holds many others also, but the Alter Rebbe holds clearly that even if it's for the sake of the muktzah, it's not a problem. So let's say I have money in my house, I have a housekeeper, I don't want to take the money, whatever. So to move the muktzah with a book, that's not muktzah, I wouldn't be allowed to. But if I want to use it, kick it with my foot, to move it out of the way with my foot, then I would be allowed to do it. Or my elbow or something like that. What?
Say we use this scenario where you open the freezer and a chicken or a meat fell off, frozen.
Fell off onto the floor.
Yeah, into the floor. Now we need the space on the floor because it's a small kitchen and there's no...
The problem is, you can kick it away. Where are you going to kick it to?
And are you allowed to take 2 towels?
2
towels? And take it and put it back in the freezer?
No, because then you're moving it for the muktzah.
I'm moving it because I need the floor.
No, you need the floor, kick it away. No, that's not who you're fooling. Here you want to put it back, so there would be a problem. Then you're doing it for the benefit of the muktzah. You don't want it to be, so then you wouldn't be allowed to. Unless if it's a big loss of money, again, many times you can ask a guy to move muktzah. Sometimes it says you're not supposed to, but Allah made it, but sometimes you can ask, especially if there's a big loss of money, then you would be allowed to do it. But it's around. People have to be very careful with these muktzah things that fall on the floor. You might have a problem. Now, obviously, if something falls on the floor, I think we learned this all the way in the beginning. Let's say a glass, falls off the table onto the floor and it cracks. It bursts all over the place. So even though that broken keli, the broken glass or the broken dish is mamish muktzah, it's not usable. But if it's going to be dangerous to somebody, it's going to be somebody might get hurt, then you're allowed to pick it up and put it away. And then what?
The same chicken that he dropped on the floor. Can you pick it up with the trash can and put it into the garbage can? Leave the trash can.
You want to throw? Why are you throwing it out? I don't know. It might defrost. It's not going to go bad in half a day. I mean, I don't know. No, I'll tell you the truth. If you have babies and they get hurt on that frozen chicken, then you would be allowed to pick it up and move it. But again, you can't fool anybody. If you have no babies in the house, maybe a baby will come from 5 miles away. Maybe it'll come and maybe I'll have to move it. I mean, that doesn't work. If you have babies in the house and anything which is dangerous, this is up to the understanding of the person. That's all it is. Okay. So that's basically the way of moving it, or not moving it. Okay, we also learned about Muktzah and kiss. There's a lot of interesting contemporary arguments about certain things. If it Muktzah and kiss. Remember, we learned something that you would only use so the thing gets made for because it's a loss of money. Okay? So we learned expensive pens, expensive paper. Okay, that nobody's going to just make a paper airplane out of a paper if it's very expensive parchment paper. Okay, you're not going to do that. But now, regular paper today, you have the copy paper. You have a regular piece of paper today. Is it Muktzah kiss or not? So some poskim write, you're not going to find a normal person just taking a piece of paper and whatever, doing whatever with it. So the Moshe Feinstein holds the Moshe, it is Muktzah kiss, even a regular, Xerox paper or whatever type of paper. And most poskim disagree, and they write, no, today, paper it's so cheap. In fact, you have a Gemara in Bab Metzia and many other places, but the Gemara discusses, you find a document in the street, okay, and it's not valid anymore. So now the question is, who do you give it back to? Do you give it to the lender or do you give it to the borrower? Okay? So the Gemara says, if it's an invalid document, who cares? I mean, and the Gemara answers, Lo tzura pitz luchusei. He wants to use it as a bottle cap. Years ago, paper was very expensive, so they used to use paper as a bottle cap. So now the question the Gemara discusses, do you give it back to the lender, to the malva, that he can cover his bottles with it? Or do you give it back to the borrower that he should cover his bottles with it? But today we don't have, people don't cover bottles with paper. Paper is, so bottom line, by the way, I'll tell you where there's a lot of interesting opinions with this. What happens if I have a notebook?
What kind?
Apple, a pear. What happens if you have a loose leaf binder? Okay, like the 3 holes, you know?
Yeah.
And you want to move papers. You want to get to page 20, and you have to move the papers. But along the way, they're blank papers. So papers that are written on things that you're allowed to read on Shabbos, not business related or whatever, that you're allowed to, so they're not muktzah. But what happens if I want to get to page 21, but before 21 there's 5 pages of blank paper in the notebook? So according to those people that hold that it's muktzah machzor and kiss, so I can't even move it to get to page 20. Why? Because I'm moving individual papers. Each paper is muktzah. Now, if it's in a pad, where it's one thing, they don't come separated. So then, if part of the pad is allowed, so the whole pad is allowed. So let's say, according to all opinions, if I have a notepad, okay, that they're all, you can't take out papers, right? It's one thing. So then, even though there's blank papers in the middle, but the fact that there's written papers anywhere in the book, so this thing becomes a base of muktzah, not muktzah, and I'm allowed to move it without any question. But let's say you have a loosely binder that's separate.
When the paper is not muktzah, it's okay.
Yeah, but the Moshe holds it is. Right, that's what I'm saying. But if you hold paper is not muktzah, not machzor and kiss, so then I'm allowed to get to it, and then I can move the papers. That's what I'm saying.
Paper is less than 2 cents a sheet. No one hesitates.
So that's what people write. But there's a condemned of Moshe Feinstein. Maybe today, paper is even cheaper, less valuable than it was when he wrote this tshuva. But the bottom line is, what?
I'm actually looking that up.
If what?
To see if paper nowadays is cheaper than it was back then. I'll see.
It might have been the same 2 cents. The 2 cents then would get you a lot more than 2 cents would get you today.
Chelik Daled, he wrote in the later years.
1.6 cents.
A sheet. Yeah, but 1.6 cents then is like a 10 cents today. More.
At least.
Okay?
But still, 10 cents no one cares.
But Moshe has a whole tshuva. He says the fact that it is something, people just don't take paper and throw it around. It depends, what?
My question is it a monetary value that's assigned to it that makes it its own
No.
or is it could have a different value that's not?
It could have a sentimental value. I'll give you an example. Many poskim hold that pictures that you hang on the wall, like family portraits that you hang on the wall, according to many opinions in halacha, it's muktzah kiss. You put it up on the wall, it should be safe on the wall. Nobody takes a very family picture that's precious and starts traveling around the house with it. You don't do it. You always put it on the place. You put it where it belongs. Passports are muktzah kiss. Driver's license, credit cards. You know, these things, people just don't lay around because they're precious. Now, it could be sentimental precious. Is also, the chasson kiss doesn't mean financial. It means it's something, but it has to be something that's basically something that would be forbidden to do on Shabbos. But yeah, then you would have an issue with those things. It would be muktzah machzor kiss. Yeah. And then it would be completely muktzah. Okay. Or like blueprints, they have a whole bunch of the marriage certificate, birth certificate. Now, what?
agree that is allowed and has something that makes the Muktzah and non-Muktzah. So you can move.
No, on Shabbos you can't do it.
No.
No, because it's muktzah, you can't even move it to the... I'll give you an example. You have your talis and tefillin. Okay, so let's say your talis and tefillin are in the same big bag. Okay, Shabbos, you need your talis. Okay? So, would I be allowed to move the talis and tefillin bag to get to my talis? So now, the question is, the bag is a basis for the talis, which is not muktzah, and for the tefillin, which are muktzah. So there's a lot of din in mebazah if you could tilt it and it won't fall, it will damage it. So let's say you have your talis and tefillin on a shelf somewhere, and you didn't take out the talis before Shabbos, you can open the zipper, take out the talis back, because you're not even touching the tefillin. That's not a question at all. Okay, but you have drawers in your house, a drawer that has muktzah and non-muktzah in it. You can have a lot of things that have muktzah and non-muktzah. We're going to learn, that's a whole separate thing called basis. It's a basis, means the base of muktzah is as muktzah as the thing itself. So if let's say only this thing would be on the table, on this shulchan, when Shabbos began, I cannot move the shulchan. I could put stuff on it, I can eat on it because I'm not moving it. But let's say I would have to move it, I wouldn't be able to move it. Because it's muktzah, it became muktzah when Shabbos began, even if the thing is not even there anymore. But when Shabbos began, the table was a base for the muktzah, let's say somebody, a housekeeper took it away, whatever. The fact that when Shabbos began, the muktzah was on it, it was a base only for muktzah, it stays Shabbos the entire muktzah. That's the reason we learned already all the way at the beginning. All the way in the beginning we learned there's an old Yiddish minhag that women put the challah on the table before they light the Shabbos candles. What is the reason for that? Because you're lighting Shabbos candles on the table. The candles are muktzah. The candles that you lit are muktzah for the duration of Shabbos, completely muktzah. Candelabra that you didn't light is either kelish, it could be muktzah machzon and kiss, if it's very expensive, or kelish malachta l'isser. Okay, but the candles that you lit on Shabbos, the table becomes muktzah for the entire Shabbos. You can't even, let's say you light tea lights even. You're on the table. And now, Shabbos morning, they're out already, so you want to throw them out. You can't pick them up and throw them out. They're completely muktzah for the duration of Shabbos. So by putting challah on the table before the woman benches licht, now the table is a base for the muktzah and the non-muktzah. And for you, again, it's not monetary value. For me, right now, the challah is more precious than the flame of the fire that would made it a whole thing muktzah. So therefore, I would be allowed to move the table. That's the reason why you women do it.